this up, and then I'll start. So as Becca mentioned, and you mentioned earlier, our family just spent some time in Cabo in Mexico. It was great, and one of the, there was pool, there was a beach, there was lots of good food, there was strep, there was norovirus, which we're healthy from. But one of the highlights for me was Shabbat, because there we were, all 19 of us, under a gazebo celebrating Shabbat in Cabo, Mexico. They had this little gazebo that was right where the pool meets the beach, right next to the restaurant we were going to have dinner at, and right in a very public setting. So there we were celebrating Shabbat, the candles and the wine and the challah. Someone somehow snuck a challah. Doing all of that surrounded by absolute strangers. Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure at least half the population were Jews from New York, but probably not all of them actually were. And so even as we celebrated, I, on the one hand, felt a little self-conscious, a little worried for our safety, because there we were with the candles and everything. We were singing the prayers. We had kippot on. But I was also very proud that there we were, the southern tip of Baja California, 19 of us celebrating Shabbat, representing our faith, perhaps forming a core memory for our kids. There we were, proudly being Jewish. And our tradition reminds us of this duality of safety versus spirit, or worrying about anti-Semitism versus publicly and proudly being Jewish, or Jewish. So in our Torah portion, Vay'chi, we're at the end of Genesis, we're at the end of Jacob's life, and Jacob blesses Joseph's sons, basically making them his own, and he says, Vayidgu larov b'kerev haaretz. May these children multiply and be a multitude across the face of the land. It's a blessing for prosperity, for continued generations. But it literally says not may they multiply, it says may they teem like fish. It's figurative language. May they become teeming like multitudes of a vast school of fish. And so the Chatam Sofer, who's an 18th, 19th century rabbi, he takes this idea of multiplying and he elaborates. He says, may they multiply like a fish out of water, like a fish out of water. The continuing existence of the Jews is contrary to the natural order. Across the face of the land, like a fish on the land, so is the Jew. So Rabbi Stephen Weiland of New Jersey, he explains what the Chatam Sofer is saying. He's saying that the Jews are like a fish on land. One might think that shouldn't exist, but we do against all odds, going against the natural order like a fish existing on land. Why? Because God sustains us. Now this idea, this teaching could be a little scary at first, this idea that Jews should not exist, but I think it's actually saying the opposite, that against all odds, we thrive. So Rabbi Weiland then connects this idea of the Chatam Sofer, that the Jewish people perseveres due to God's help. He connects it to the words of his teacher, Rabbi Arnold Jacob Wolf, who says, the preservation of the Jewish people is not our task. That is God's task. Our task is to live as Jews. If we do our part, God will take care of the rest. In other words, when we trust in God, we should trust in God that the Jews will survive, or Jewish adjacent, or part of the great Jewish mishpacha, and instead we should focus on living our lives, living our Jewish lives. Now in 2026, with anti-Semitism on the rise, or past being on the rise, we may be worried about our physical safety, and I think we should be. I would not say don't worry about that. I wouldn't say put that entirely in God's hands. I think we do need to do our part to ensure our physical survival. But I think Rabbis Wolf and Weiland are teaching us, based on the Chatam Sofer, that it's more important how we live our lives as Jews. That we fulfill the mitzvot, that we attend services, that we care for our world through tikkun olam, that we enjoy all the great parts of Judaism, like my family observed on the beach last week. Yes, as we did on the beach. So as we enter 2026, if we're still looking for resolutions or you want to tack one on, let us live full Jewish lives, and may 2026 be a year of thriving Jewishly. And we say, Amen. Take a few moments to think about how we can live our lives to our full selves this year.